Welcome to the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society's presentation on History Outdoors, Motor Cities Markers. In this presentation, we will be talking about the Motor Cities markers that are located in the Greater West Bloomfield area. What is the Motor Cities National Heritage Area? Motor Cities National Heritage Area is a nonprofit corporation headquartered in Detroit and is a division of the National Park Service. They tell the story of how Southeast and Central Michigan put the world on wheels. Motor Cities links the world's largest collection of cultural and labor organizations, museums, archives, factories, auto collections, and events to preserve the history of how tinkerers became titans and how auto and labor helped build the middle class while transforming manufacturing worldwide. They work to inspire residents and visitors of Southeast and Central Michigan with an appreciation for how the automobile changed Michigan, the nation, and the world. National heritage areas are places where natural, cultural, historic, and scenic resources combine to form a cohesive, nationally important landscape arising from patterns of humanity. The Motor Cities National Heritage Area encompasses over 10,000 square miles in southeast and central Michigan. You may be familiar with these brown National Park Service signs along major highways in Metro Detroit. There are a total of 14 welcoming motorists to a National Heritage Area. They were installed between the winter of 2019 and the spring of 2020 after many years of work in collaboration with the Michigan Department of Transportation. This particular sign is on the I-96 eastbound ramp to I-75 southbound in Detroit. Another major signage program to come out of the Motor Cities National Heritage Area is the Wayside Exhibit Program. Through a grant from the Federal Highway Administration, Michigan Department of Transportation, and the Michigan Department of History, Arts, and Libraries, Motor Cities was able to create a comprehensive system of over 250 outdoor exhibits in communities throughout central and southeastern Michigan. Each sign commemorates and brings awareness to Michigan's automotive heritage on both a community and regional level. During the 2014 Michigan Week Awards, Brian Yap, Motor Cities Director of Programs and Operations, spoke about the program in more detail.
Unique automotive pioneer who went from a tinkerer to a titan, and there's quite a bit of story that led up to that. So we were proud to have worked with the Henry Ford Heritage Association and others on that partnership. There are a lot of terms that describe, and what I've been explaining here, a lot of terms that describe Motor Cities, but we plucked these out that seem to describe us the best. Is we are a collaborator. We're a convener, we're a catalyst, and we're a champion for those who continue to support the automotive heritage of this region, and we will continue to do that. An example of that is certainly the project we're here to talk about today. It's the Wayside Exhibit Program, and all around the room you see the foam core versions of the actual signs that have been installed around your region. So if you have not taken the opportunity, you will now to go out and check these signs out. The Wayside Exhibit Program is a special grant project through the Michigan Department of Transportation and actually through the Federal Highway Administration, administered through Motor Cities National Heritage Area. The idea was that a group of people in 2004 actually thought about another level, another way that we can creatively tell the story of our region and add a little something more to the landscape. Something more from the MDOT perspective other than orange barrels that we see along the highway. So we needed something a little different from MDOT. And actually, somebody got that. The rest of us enjoy the orange barrels, I guess. But the point is that we had an opportunity to do something different, something unique in their transportation enhancement program. These are the same sorts of funds that will be used to, plant the trees and cut the grass and things like that have to be done. But believe it or not, it's a very small part of their overall budget. About 5% of it is used for that. So a ton of the money does go to the orange barrels, and hopefully we'll reap the benefits of that. But a little bit of it has been carved away for this program. And so they created an unprecedented grant. They really have not in their history, and may not after they're done with this, do another project similar to this, where they are granting funds directly to their communities and to their partners to make sure that stories are told. And it's not about roadside signage. It's not about highway exit signs and orange barrels. It's about a story that weaves our landscapes together across the state. In 2007, Motor Cities coordinated the interests of all of our communities. and launched this program. We contracted historians, graphic designer, interpretive writer to make sure that things were done in a professional manner and told the stories of our community. And the result of that is a series of interpretive panels. Believe it or not, there will be upwards of 230 of these panels across the entire state, 10,000 square miles of Southeast Michigan, to be exact, again, in cities like Lansing and Flint, in Ypsilanti and Detroit and Dearborn, and right here, of course, in West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and all around you. So these signs are all over the landscape here, and each one of those communities has a unique story to tell. It's really stories about people, about ideas and places that influence auto culture, as our entire program is about people. You know, you hear about automobiles and you can celebrate your 57 Chevys and your Ford Mustangs, but really it's about the Joseph Campos and the Ransom Olds and the Henry Joys and the Henry Fords who created this industry, and these are the names that you think of when you talk about automotive. So it's really about the people and the places and the ideas. But I think the challenge with all of these was that you had to look further and talk about how automotive influenced your community. And you'll see a variety of those topics in these signs, talking about roadside culture and the way people live and recreation and travel and the things that automotive afforded to a community as it continued to grow, even in the turn of the last century and certainly even today. So we had great examples all across the communities. But the question we were faced with when we started was, how are these different than, say, the typical Michigan historic markers? So you see those all over the place. They mark historic sites or historic events, and we had to challenge ourselves and say, how are they different? I think visually we can say that those historic markers are usually huge bronze placards, usually very dense in words, no imagery on those. If you take a look around, you see that these are vivid imaginations, vivid interpretations of stories that jump out to you, that show you, without even having to read them, that show you and tell you what happened in these areas. Plus, we didn't have to place them in place, on a historic site. We didn't have to put them at a place where something happened. We could litter them throughout the landscape of the community, and most have done that. Most have put them, most have put them on their trails, which is what has happened here, in their parks, at their city halls, and at their museums and other places where people naturally gather. So instead of putting a marker at a location at an old factory that may have been torn down 30 years ago, and you say, boy, I hope somebody walks by this one day, we put them in places where people are naturally gathering, in their city centers and their city halls and along their recreation trails, to say we know that someone will be engaged as they jog along, and they'll maybe jog a little slower when they see one of these signs come up. So that was definitely one of the first hurdles to get over. Our designer for the signs, Project Arts and Ideas, and Joe Hines in particular, is not here today, but he would certainly want me to share with you that his motivation in all of the work that he did on the signs was to add a voice to the landscape, to places that you know are special, that you live in the community, but maybe you didn't realize as you go by. Just as we didn't realize that we were in a National Heritage area. Many people don't realize the story in the automotive history that happened right in your own backyard. So as you do that, it adds an additional voice to an area without someone having to come and tell you. You can read it there on your own.
GWBHS, the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation, West Acres Community Association, and many volunteers worked with the MotorCities National Heritage Area Wayside Exhibit Program to help create more than 20 outdoor exhibits about the automotive heritage of Keego Harbor, Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield. Beginning in 2012, GWBHS volunteer historians provided historical information and images for the design of many of the exhibit signs. Locations of some of the exhibits include the West Bloomfield Trail, Orchard Lake Museum, downtown Keego Harbor, and the Sylvan Lake Community Center. There are a total of 11 signs located in West Bloomfield at various places throughout the township. Special thanks go out to the West Acres Women's Club, West Acres Credit Union, Pine Lake Country Club, and West Bloomfield Township for sponsorship of the West Bloomfield signs, along with Scott Boone, Kyle Stalter, Ron Gay, and Kara Kazanowski for the historic content. Near Walnut Creek Middle School, you'll find the very first sign in the West Bloomfield Trail at the trailhead near Walnut Lake Road. Let's see what that's all about.
For over 130 years, railroad locomotives thundered through this beautiful countryside. The Michigan Airline Railroad was completed in 1884, a branch of the historic Grand Trunk Railroad, which became a vital shipping network between manufacturing centers of the automobile industry. As the railway was abandoned, the original tracks were torn up and the natural corridor was preserved. The West Bloomfield Trail, ahead of which starts here, marked by this Wayside sign, runs about 7 miles from West Bloomfield all the way up to Sylvan Lake, offering a beautiful natural enrichment and enhancement to the community.
Most of the township signs are located along the West Bloomfield Trail, which follows the train tracks of the Michigan Airline Railroad and later the Detroit United Railway. 2 of the signs are located at the West Acres Branch Library in the West Acres community. In 1936, Michigan U.S. Senator James Couzens established the neighborhood of 150 homes for low-income automotive factory workers. Home ownership included an acre of land and encouraged farming for food and self-sufficiency. Oakland Housing Incorporated also assisted residents to develop a satisfactory communal life and finance supplemental enterprises. Moving up the West Bloomfield Trail, at the West Bloomfield Woods Nature Preserve, is our second sign, detailing the Countryside Improvement Association. Weekend visitors in noisy, self-propelled vehicles turned up dust on unpaved roads and trespassed on private property. To address these difficulties, women from Pine and Orchard Lakes formed the Countryside Improvement Association in 1911. Their early fundraising paid to settle the dust by spraying oil on the roads. Further efforts improved the region's roads and signs and defined road rules and property rights. Countryside fundraising continues to support charities and scholarships. If you're familiar with the West Bloomfield area, you may have noticed this sign where the West Bloomfield Trail crosses Orchard Lake Road. The Orchard Lake Beach stop was located here where the parallel Grand Trunk Railroad and Detroit United Railway trolley tracks crossed at Orchard Lake Road. Many Detroiters escaped to nature on the trolleys of the Detroit United Railway in the early 1900s. It was a very popular stop for people enjoying day trips to Orchard Lake for swimming and picnicking. As you move further along the West Bloomfield Trail, north of Pine Lake Road, you'll begin to walk alongside the Pine Lake Country Club's golf course. Pine Lake Country Club began as a treasured rustic destination for Automobile Club of Detroit road tours in the early 1900s. By 1910, the clubhouse on Pine Lake had become a scenic refuge for members that included automotive pioneers and leaders of government and industry. The club changed its name to Pine Lake Country Club in 1921 and, on added property, opened an 18-hole golf course in 1924. The city of Orchard Lake has a total of 4 signs in its small community, all located around the Orchard Lake Museum at the corner of Orchard Lake and Long Lake Roads. These signs were sponsored by Orchard Lake St. Mary's and the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, with Ron Gay, Kara Kazanowski, and Helen Jane Peters providing the historical content. 2 of Orchard Lake's signs are located at the base of the stairs behind the Orchard Lake Museum on the West Bloomfield Trail. The first details how people waited for the trolleys to take them all around the lakes.
The trolley system made it easy to travel the lakes of Oakland County. In the early 1900s, people got off or waited at platforms specifically built to access the train tracks. The Detroit United Railway purchased land from local farmers to build more tracks and more waiting platforms. Taxes on this property forced the railway to charge high fares, eventually leading to the demise of the trolley system. Here, where Long Lake crosses the parallel tracks of the Detroit United Railway and the Grand Trunk Railroad, are stairs similar to those that people use to get on and off the trolleys.
Next to the Waiting for the Trolley sign, you'll find information about the Orchard Lake Museum, home to the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. The first building on this property was the Orchard Lake House, built in 1857 for stagecoach travelers. Various owners rebuilt and enlarged the site, later named the Orchard Lake Hotel, to entertain the growing resort community on the lakes. In 1939, the building was mostly torn down and replaced by the smaller Orchard Lake Village Hall, later becoming the museum it is today. Moving to the museum's backyard, this panel discusses how Native Americans first lived in the woodlands among the waterways and trails. By 1820, settlers built roads and opened the land to farming, mostly growing apples and raising sheep. Rail increased access and visitors came to escape city stresses. As farmland gave way to housing subdivisions, permanent residents also could enjoy the simple pleasures of swimming, boating, and fishing. Catching up on the trail, on the other side of the trees was what had been the parade grounds of the Michigan Military Academy, now the Orchard Lake St. Mary's campus. Here, the Detroit United Railway built a Y, spelled W-Y-E. This Y-shaped track allowed trolley cars to turn to go in the opposite direction along the trolley track that paralleled the Grand Trunk Railroad. Nestled in the undergrowth here, barely visible, is a trace of the Y, a concrete basin where maintenance workers climbed under the trolleys for inspections and repairs. The city of Keego Harbor has one sign located in Tate Optimist Park, pictured here. There's no parking at the park, but the sign and park are both accessible from the West Bloomfield Trail. Keego's sign was sponsored by Oakland County, with GWBHS Treasurer Sue Williams providing the historical content. The sign details how a lake and a trolley put Keego Harbor on the map.
Cass Lake was a quiet paradise for farmers and merchants until the Grand Trunk Railroad, which used to run right along this trail, started bringing weekenders up from Pontiac and Detroit to the area. In 1912, real estate developer Joseph Sawyer began selling off lots on the lake and Orchard Lake Road, bringing in new residents, primarily factory workers and skilled tradespeople working for the landowners, resorts, and merchants of the area. Keego Harbor officially became a city in 1955 at the intersections of Cass Lake and Orchard Lake roads. Today, it remains a gateway to the many attractions of Oakland County's lakes.
And finally, we come to Sylvan Lake, which is home to 8 Wayside signs. All the historical content for these signs was provided by Helen Jane Peters, GWBHS member and Sylvan Lake historian, and Eric Wiegand, another GWBHS member. In 2013, many Sylvan Lake residents and community organizations, like the Sylvan Lake Garden Club and Sylvan Lake Home and Garden Tour, came together to make these signs a reality.
Hi, we're here with Helen Jane Peters, and Helen, you're the historian here out in this area, right?
Yes, I'm the Sylvan Lake historian.
Okay, give us an idea of what's been going on here and with the Ice Cream Social and the Heritage Foundation and all this, how all this is connected.
Well, the Ice Cream Social has been put on by the Sylvan Lake Garden Club since 1965 for 48 years. And it's an annual event where people in the neighborhood make homemade cakes and bring them to the community center. People can buy a plate for $1 and have a piece of cake or pie and ice cream of their choice for $1. And this has been going on for a long, long time. And it's a great event to bring the whole community together every summer. Well, this year, in connection with that, we decided to dedicate our Wayside signs. These signs have been, we've been working on them for the last year and a half, and they were put in the ground just last week. There are 5 of these signs around Sylvan Lake. One of them is about the Sylvan Lake Inn that was here on this very property for 10 years. Another one is about the Detroit Free Press Camp that was here for 55 years right here on this property. Another one is the Oakland County Boat Club that was that just celebrated 100 years last year. So it's 101 years old this year in August. Another one is about Ferndale Beach and Tower Beach, which is our beach, the main big beach that all the kids swim at. And the other one is about the inner urban. The inner urban brought people from Detroit to Pontiac, and then from Pontiac to Sylvan Lake. And Merrill Mills, who developed the inn, also developed and brought the inner urban to Sylvan Lake. So that one is on Garland, and Garland is a boulevard because of the inner urban trolley running right down the center of it.
Now, the exhibits that are all around the city now, I heard you talking about it earlier, Give us your feeling of like which one really moves you. Which is your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Oh boy, that's hard to say. Probably the camp, because I grew up here in Sylvan Lake. My parents brought me home from the hospital to a little house on Inverness, and I've lived here since then. And when I was little, I remember coming down here to the camp, and they had a program, some kind of a program, every night of the week. And when they had movies, that's when I really liked coming. We would come down here to the camp, and I would sit on the floor with all the campers and watch the movies. Other nights they would have neighborhood kids would sing or dance, play the ukulele, just put on plays, and they would have talent shows, and even Red Skelton entertained here one time at the Fresh Air Camp, which is pretty amazing. So that one I really have a connection with that.
So a lot of rich heritage and history in this area, and you guys are doing a great job of putting this on.
Thank you very much.
The Sylvan Lake signs can be found all over the community, with 3 right on the West Bloomfield Trail. Nearing the end of the West Bloomfield Trail in Sylvan Lake, you'll come across this sign on kit homes built beginning in the 1920s.
Demand for housing skyrocketed in the early 1900s as thousands came to Southeast Michigan in search of jobs in the burgeoning auto industry. Kit homes were an innovative way of addressing these housing needs. Manufacturers shipped out materials for an entire house, from pre-cut lumber to doorknobs and paint. Friends, family members, and paid skilled tradesmen would use these materials, along with an instruction manual, to build the houses on prepared foundations, resulting in high-quality housing at low cost. Sylvan Lake had kit homes built from 1920 to 1940, and 30 still stand today. They're listed right here on this Wayside sign.
Near Sylvan Lake City Hall, you'll find a panel for the Daniel Whitfield School. To meet the needs of Sylvan Lake children, the first Daniel Whitfield School was opened in 1852. The flourishing automotive industry brought more families with children to the area. To keep pace with the demand, a new 7-room brick school was built on the site in 1927. Daniel Whitfield School at Orchard Lake and Ward Roads grew up with the car industry and continued to enrich the community until it closed in 1991. As you enter into Sylvan Lake subdivision, you'll find information on how vacationers travel to Sylvan Lake. In the middle of the boulevard on Garland Street, this panel details how, in the early 1890s, entrepreneur Merrill B. Mills planned hundreds of acres of his property at Sylvan Lake as streets, subdivisions, and the luxurious Sylvan Lake Inn. Even more boldly, he created a local link to the regional trolley system, inviting visitors and investors to the community he was creating. The trolley system is the reason why Garland Street is a boulevard. Travel a little farther toward the lake and you'll come across Ferndale Park, a quaint community park right on the lake. A trip to Sylvan Lake gave people a new attitude on life. After the 1890s, trolleys and automobiles allowed people to visit Tower Beach on the Telegraph Road side of the lake for slide rides, picnics, fishing, and swimming. In the 1940s, marshy lakefront property on the south side of the lake was filled to create Ferndale Beach and Park for the enjoyment and growth of the community. And finally, moving along Ferndale Street, you'll come across the Oakland County Boat Club, started in 1912. The first meetings of the club were held in an old shed used for a boat livery. In 1916, the boat club was built with rooms for dining, dancing, and meetings. The club's prospects dimmed when returning World War I veterans abandoned their boats for the new automobile craze. Eventually, automobiles and the trolley line brought new members to Sylvan Lake looking for relief from the crowded roads and city life. Obviously, we did not cover all 25 signs in our communities tonight, but that shouldn't stop you from visiting these signs on your own. Even though it's cold out, the West Bloomfield Trail remains open. Take a walk in any of the 4 communities and you're bound to see at least one Wayside sign. You can find the new map on our website at gwbhs.org/education/wayside-exhibits. Thank you, and we hope to talk history again with you soon.